welcome to our podcast, Those Twins Who Knit. My name is Rachel.
And I'm Jessica.
And this is our channel where we like to talk about all the things that we've been up to, mostly knitting-wise, but a little bit of sewing today. And it's been a while, so we have a lot to share.
Yeah, it's been several weeks since we last filmed. We usually try to be a little better, but life's just been busy recently. So yeah, we have a lot to catch up on when it comes to finished objects, whips. I don't think we have many acquisitions today.
We do have sewing at the end. We'll save that for later because I know some people are really mostly here for the knitting. But yeah, we have a lot to go over, I think.
Today I'm wearing the Theresia sweater by Gregoria Fibers, and I used Sandnes Garn Sunday held together with their Tynn Silk Mohair, and the Sunday was in the colorway Pineapple, and then the Tynn Silk Mohair was in the colorway Moonstone. And I really love both of those colors, but the Pineapple was a little bit brighter than I thought it was going to be. I kind of wish I had gotten Moonstone in both of the colors. I don't know that they have Moonstone in the Sunday line, but I do know that they have it in the Tynn Pure Gint, which is another like fingering weight. So I could have subbed that one out, and I think if I were to redo this sweater, or like if I had the ability to go back in time, I would have done that. But overall, I am still really happy with how it turned out. The sweater uses a contiguous construction, so it kind of feels like you're knitting a raglan, but it looks like a drop shoulder because you do a tiny bit of the traditional drop shoulder style where you knit like a little bit of the back and a little bit of the front, and then you pick up along the top of the sleeves and then knit the rest of the yoke in that circular way that you would traditionally knit like a raglan, but the rates for increase on the sleeves and the body are a little bit different to give it a little bit of a better shape, in my opinion. I think it's just a fun way to knit. I've always had really good luck with the shape of a contiguous construction, so I really like that it was designed this way. And I think the keyhole detail is very cute.
That's my favorite part.
I know. And the designer used a little pearl button for hers, and I thought that was really cute, so I used a little pearl button for mine, and I'm pretty happy with that. The designer doesn't give her own instructions for the buttonhole. She just links to a video from another designer, which is fine, but I personally prefer traditionally like written instructions or like pictures when I'm knitting. I don't necessarily always love having to like stop and watch a YouTube video for instructions. So that was really my only major like qualm with the instructions, is I wish she had written this out. But the video that she linked was very easy to follow, and I didn't run into any issues doing the buttonhole. So no major complaints there. That's just like a minor personal preference. And I was playing a little bit of yarn chicken with this. I think when I did the math, because I made the second size of this sweater, I should have had 6 skeins of the mohair, and I only had 5. So I literally had like maybe 9 yards left over after all was said and done. I definitely cut it very close, but I was, I finished the whole sweater with the 5. And I'm happy with like the length of the sleeves and the body and everything. I'm kind of pushing the sleeves up today because it's slightly too warm for a sweater. I probably should be in a tank top like you are, but we're going to risk it for the podcast today and see how far we can get. And my only other kind of observation is that I probably am not going to wear the sweater with these pants from here on out, because I liked this combo when I got dressed this morning and then later realized that I'm giving a little bit of Arthur vibes. And I don't know how I feel about that, but, it is what it is.
I see the Arthur.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Going into what I'm wearing, I am wearing the Sabai top by Paulastrickt. And this was not even like a work in progress last podcast. I think I had the yarn at that point, but I just like made this in between and it flew. I think it only took a week. I am a teacher, so I don't have a job right now. It's pretty nice actually to not have anywhere to be.
I'm very jealous.
But I think that's part of why I've been able to like get through stuff so fast, is because I have a lot of time on my hands. But I really, really enjoyed this. I have made this top before, and it's a very simple construction. It does have in the pattern an option to do either a little bit of ribbing at the top or just go into a, what would you call this, like a raw cast on kind of?
Yeah, like
a raw edge.
Rolled edge?
Rolled edge. It has a kind of unfinished feel to it, but I like it. It's grown on me quite a bit. And so I just did the simplest one where you cast on and immediately get started on the construction. And you increase on the shoulders a little bit, but then you pretty quickly move into separating the front and the back, and then join back around and then go to the end. I was also playing Yarn Chicken on this because based on where I was at, if I needed another skein, I would only need like less than 10% of that skein. And so I was like, oh, it'll be fine. I'll just go without. And sometimes designers put an extra for swatching and things like that. So I thought I don't really need that extra skein. And I think that that's true, but it did come out more cropped than I initially pictured. I think it's actually a really good length for this skirt,
I like it.
so I'm happy with how it turned out. But while I was making it, I was a little bit panicked that maybe I should have got an extra skein. But it worked out, and it's really cute. And I made this in Knitting for Olive Dusty Banana in the Cotton Merino. So it fits in with our knit along that we've been working on.
Yes. We have been doing a knit along with our friends Liz and Paige over at their channel, Liz and Paige. So we'll put in like a little graphic or link to that in the bio. But we've basically just been doing a really chill knit along. It's a butter yellow knit along.
So the hashtag is butter yellow KAL, Cal.
Yep. And we've been having a lot of fun just looking through the posts to see what other people are making. I know this color's been super popular for spring and summer this year, so we've been enjoying just seeing how people are using the color in different projects, and all yellows are welcome. As you can see, we did very different yellows, but we're counting both, and we've just been joking that they're different types of butters. So we've been joking yours is more of like an actual homemade butter, and mine is like a very synthetic, like movie theater butter. But all yellows are welcome. So if you're interested in joining, just use the hashtag on Instagram, and we would love to see what you're making.
And it's very casual. We really are just doing it so that we can share all the different yellows that people are making, because it seems like a lot of people are joining and making yellow things this spring. So that's been really fun. Going into our finished objects, I thought I would start with this one because it also fits in with our butter yellow knit along, which is that I finished my Lakes pullover by Ozetta. And I knit this in the same color but a different base. So this was the Cotton Merino, and this is knit with 2 strands of the Knitting for Olive Merino with 1 strand of Soft Silk Mohair. So same color, just different bases to them. And so I feel like I have like a winter version and a spring summer version of the same outfit. But I actually did that kind of intentionally because I was making this and then I wanted to wear the color so bad, but I was like, I'm not going to be able to wear a sweater. And so I cast this on, and now I have both. So we're just extra prepared.
I kind of did the same thing with one of my finished objects because I also made a Lakes pullover earlier this year in red, specifically red currant from Knitting for Olive, and I used the same base of like 2 strands of merino and then 1 strand of the Soft Silk Mohair, and I really loved that red sweater. And I also wore it with white skirts a lot this year, and so I wanted a summer version, so I made a little red tank top in the same yarn.
That's so funny.
So I'll let you finish talking about yours first.
I feel like white skirts have turned into my equivalent of jeans, where I just am starting to think they go with everything. I don't know. Okay, back to the knitting. The Lakes Pullover by Ozetta is a saddle shoulder construction, which I really, really like. So you start out with the shoulders making essentially these big rectangles, and then you pick up stitches along both the front and the back, connect in the body, and then go back and pick up for the sleeves and the collar. And I think because of the saddle shoulders giving a little bit of extra fabric here, and then also it is at a fairly large gauge, I feel like this was also a project that flew by really fast. I really enjoyed knitting on it. It was actually finished quite a while ago now. I feel like I finished it really fast after our last podcast. So it got a couple of uses, but it's gotten too warm to be able to wear too much more. But I really, really like how it turned out. I kind of want to make more of these. I just really loved the construction. I loved how fast it knit up, and I love the way it looks. So I would say 10 out of 10. I really, really enjoyed this project. I think that wraps up our yellow projects for now, but it was kind of fun to start on all of this.
I'll go back and finish talking about this red tank top that I just finished. So this is the Mixed Rib Cami by Florence Muller. And like I said, I used Knitting for Olive Merino in the colorway Red Currant. I think I used 2 or 3 skeins, so it's a relatively inexpensive project. And because it's on such small needles, it actually takes up a little bit of time, but it wasn't horrible. Like I wasn't completely over knitting this project. I wasn't like, oh my god, get this off my needles by the time I finished it. Like it took a while, but it didn't take too long, if that makes sense. I think I did have to go up to a size 4 needle, and Florence recommends using a US 2.5, so that probably helped a little bit in that my gauge is so tight. I was able to go up a little bit in order to match her gauge in the pattern. This is the second time that I've knit this pattern. First time I used Sandnes Garn Sunday in the colorway Almond, and I really liked that version, so I wanted one that was a little bit brighter. And like I said, I have a red sweater that I wore a lot this past winter, so I wanted kind of a summer version of that I could wear with like white skirts or white shorts in the summer. So I think this is going to be perfect for that. I did run into an issue both times that I've knit it, where my gauge when I'm knitting flat is a little bit different than my gauge when I'm knitting in the round, and I think it's because of the way that I'm like pulling on my purl stitches when I'm alternating between knitting like knit stitches and purl stitches. But I will say it's not near as noticeable on this one as it was in the first one that I made. And I don't know if that's to do with like the different yarn, because last one I used Sunday instead of the merino from Knitting for Olive, or if it's because I was just more cautious of it this time around, or if I did a better job blocking, or maybe the color is so bright it's just a little bit harder to see, whereas the last one that I made, since it was like that off-white color, you kind of saw every little detail. So I kind of like this one a little bit better for that reason. And then also when I made the original version, it was just a little bit cropped. Not horrible. I still like the way that it fits, especially because I wear almost everything high-waisted. But this one I did make it like 1.5 inches longer, and I like that a little bit better.
I really like that pattern. I need to make that.
I really like this pattern, and I think it's the perfect balance of, it's kind of mindless because you're doing the same thing every row, but because you're knitting between like twisted stitches and ribbing and then like columns of stockinette, it's still interesting. Like it keeps you engaged even though it's not complicated, and I really like projects like that.
My second finished object today is a little pair of socks, and this is my second pair of socks that I've made this year, which doesn't feel like a lot. I feel like last year I knit a lot of socks, so I need to catch up this summer. But this pair I didn't use a pattern for. I did use a pattern at the start where I used PetiteKnit's Ruffle Socks to get this little ruffle edge at the top, and then from there I just did a 3x1 pattern in the ribbing all the way down except for stockinette in the foot. And I did a short row heel for this one, and I really just did like a vanilla sock, kind of basic, did my own thing on the pattern. But yeah, the ruffle sock from PetiteKnit was what I started with, which was very helpful. And I made this in Coast to Coast Classic Sock in the color Button, which I think is just a really perfect neutral, goes with everything. It's not quite white, but definitely goes with pretty much everything. I think it looks really cute with a little pair of sneakers, and I like how they turned out. They're a little bit shorter than I normally do my socks, but I feel like they're pretty cute.
Well, we'll talk about our next finished objects together, because even though they're not the same, they're kind of in the same family, and so they're sisters, not twins, but that's okay. So I knit the Cozy Nicki scarf by VH Atelier, and then yours is the
Cozy Scarf.
Yes.
I'm unrolling it, even though it looked so pretty all rolled up.
By the same designer. So they both have like a moss stitch pattern throughout the body of the not garment, it's a scarf, through the body of the scarf, and then have like a little I-cord edge along both of the sides. But mine is more of like a bandana triangle, and yours is more of like a traditional scarf.
So this project came about because initially over, I feel like December, January, Inez and Ellen had reached out to me about doing some sort of like mild test knit where they had already released the pattern in German, I believe, but were wanting to release the Cozy Nicki in English. So they just had me look over it, make sure things were right about it and it was easy to follow in English. And I knitted it up initially, but I was pretty tense about the I cord. And so I felt like there was a little bit of puckering, and I ended up deciding I wanted to redo it. So when I initially decided to redo it, they offered to very, very kindly gift us some Cardiff Cashmere yarn because that was the yarn that was intended for this pattern and is so nice. This is so soft.
It's the Cardiff Cashmere Classic, and it is the softest yarn I've ever used.
Yours is literally a cloud.
We use different needles. Neither one of us gauge swatched because with scarves, it's very flexible and forgiving if your gauge is a little bit off. So I used a US 7 needle, and I think you used a US 5. And they're both soft, but oh my gosh, the US 7 is
perfect.
So soft. It's just slightly more like open and airy. And it's literally the softest thing I've ever made. Like, it's so cozy.
Yeah, that's a cloud.
Yeah.
So nice. The cozy scarf, I will say, is not in English. It is only available, I believe, in German. And because I had already knit this, I was pretty comfortable with what I thought the construction was going to be, and basically like used Google Translate to figure it out. But actually, because it's really pretty simple and I was familiar with it, I think I did pretty good. I don't think that I messed up at all. It just took a little bit of extra time of like going through and making sure I was really following the steps, but I was actually kind of proud of myself that I was able to do it, although it definitely discouraged me from attempting to do this with a bigger pattern because even just the amount of like figuring out increases and decreases and stuff like that, it was a little intimidating of like, I really hope this is right, and I think it was, but yeah, doing like a full sweater or something, I would be a little bit hesitant. But I was proud I was able to translate it, so it worked out.
The designer styles this one with the bandana kind of in the front like this, and I think that's really cute. We'll insert a picture, but I actually really like it the other way around where it's, I don't know why I turned it around. It's like a moss stitch, so it doesn't really matter the way that you do it, but I think it's really cute, like kind of styled from the back like this. So I'll insert a picture of that. It kind of gives like camp vibes, especially with this green color, and I don't know why, I just think that's kind of cute. So it's nice that it's versatile and you could do it either way, but I kind of like it the second way right now a little better.
I think that wraps up our finished objects, so I'm going to jump into our works in progress, but it felt appropriate while we were talking about scarves to share this work in progress because I have started a little scarf number 1 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, and I'm making it in Sandnes Garn Tynn Line held double. I'm not 100% confident in my pronunciation here, but the color is blue hortensia. And I just got 2 skeins, which I think is going to be plenty. I don't know if I even really needed that, but I'm really, really liking how it's working up, and it's gone so fast. I think I cast this on 2 days ago and have really not even like fully dedicated a lot of time to it, and it's still just growing and growing, and I think I'm going to have it done this weekend, so really enjoying this one. I really just cast this on because I fell in love with the color and I wanted a pretty simple knit that I could commit to while I was watching like reality TV shows this summer and just kind of indulging in being very leisurely, which I definitely think fits the bill, but it's actually going so fast that I'll probably need another project like that here soon. But I'm really, really enjoying how it's turning out so far. So another little scarf is on the way.
Tynn Line is one of my favorite summer yarns too. Like, it's just so soft.
Yeah, this is like super drapey.
Yeah.
Just to talk about the construction a little bit, because I'm really not a big shawl knitter, and so I never really know how these are constructed. But this one is starting at the bottom with a very small amount of stitches, and then you increase through this like kind of middle section and on the edges. So I'm mid-row. I hope it's fairly easy to see, but you can see how the triangle's kind of forming there. And then the pattern has this section of garter and then section of eyelets that you can just kind of keep repeating as big as you want. I don't think I'm going to go super big with this one, but I may try to use up a little bit of yarn, so I may make it a little bigger than the pattern suggests, but I just think it's a really nice little summer pattern. Just have something light on the go, which I'm really enjoying.
My first whip is kind of a similar overall pattern in that it has like a garter and eyelets, so I'll talk about this one next. I'm making the Lacy loop tee by Other Loops, and I am using Undine by Ritual Dyes. I think last time we were saying it wrong. We were saying Undine because that's how it looks like it should be spelled, but several people told us that it's actually Undine, so thank you for that. And that yarn was kindly gifted by Unwind as part of the knit along that they are doing, or the make along, because it can include crochet, the make along that they're doing in partnership with Ritual Dyes this summer for this yarn because they just started carrying it.
Hello, this is Editing Rachel here. I have been tasked with editing this video by myself due to the fact that I do not have a summer job. So if there are any mistakes in this video, please blame Jessica for leaving me to my own devices. But I thought I would hop in and share a little bit more about the make-along that we're participating in because I feel like we left some information out. So our local yarn shop, Unwind in Lee Summit, is hosting a make-along that includes knitting or crochet based on the Ritual Dyes Undine base that they have recently got into the store. Undine comes in both a fingering and a DK, so you can include either of those. And if you buy at least one skein from Unwind, either in person or online, and finish an object or finish your project by August 31st, you will be entered into a drawing for a $50 gift card to the yarn store. So multiple projects are welcome. You're welcome to enter more than once, but you do have to finish that object. And it's just been really fun to get to participate in something that a lot of people local to us are working on, and definitely want to invite you to join us if that's something that you are interested in.
So I'll hold it up so you can see some of the details. I'm using the natural colorway, but it comes in all sorts of fun colors. There's some really beautiful like greens and blues, and there's a red that was really pretty, but I think I'm just liking that color right now, that like poppy color. But I did the natural color because that's very similar to what the designer behind the Lacy loop tee used in hers, and I really liked her sample version. So I've only gotten as far as the back so far, but it is knit in a way where you like cast on all of the stitches and then you use short rows in order to shape the shoulders, and then continue on for a little bit until you start making some increases for the underarms. So I've finished the back, and then I haven't gone back and like picked up any of the shoulders to start the front yet, so that'll be next. But I'm really enjoying it so far. It's very, I don't know, it's just like a nice gauge for a summer yarn. I'm using a US 7, so it's kind of flying by. And I feel like a lot of summer yarns kind of hurt my hands when I use them, but so far I haven't noticed anything like that. Granted, I haven't sat down for like hours and hours and hours to knit at a time. I've kind of just been like picking it up and doing like, you know, a couple, like the garter section, and then like going to, you know, putting it down and coming back and doing like a couple rows of stockinette, and then coming back and doing the eyelets. But I feel like that's a good way to knit a summer project.
I love patterns like this because it's always like, oh, I'll just finish this little section, and then you go, oh, I'll just finish this section, and it's kind of like stripes where you just want to keep going, and then all of a sudden it's done and you're like, oh, that went so fast.
Yes. So initially I had picked up the yarn, swatched, got gauge, went ahead and cast on, and then we actually went into Unwind recently, and one of the things that I had noticed when looking at like the store display is that Tammy, the owner of that store, had taken her swatch and she had not just like wet blocked it and then laid it flat to dry, but she actually stuck hers in the dryer. Because the Ritual Dyes website says that you can do that with this yarn. It's like a cotton linen blend, and so you are able to dry it. So I was like, oh, I'm going to do the same thing. Her swatch was way softer than mine was, so I was hoping that I would be able to just dry my swatch, measure it, get the same gauge. It would be great. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. My swatch did shrink just a tiny bit. It's only off now by one stitch, so it's not hugely significant. Like, it didn't have like a ton of shrinkage, but it did shrink just enough that I don't think I'm going to be able to dry my final garment and feel good about it still fitting the same. I think I'm going to have to treat it the way that I do with all of my other knit garments, where I just get them wet and then lay them flat to dry and not actually put them in the dryer, which is fine. That's how I do all of my garments, so I'm not worried about it or anything. Just her putting it in the dryer made it so much softer that I was like, ooh, it'd be nice if I could do that too. But the garment that I'm working on right now is still very soft and has good drape, so I'm not worried about it. It would have just been like extra nice if I could have done that, but I think if I wanted to do that, I should have done that before I actually cast on, which is just general best practices. I was just hoping that a miracle would happen and it wouldn't shrink, but that's, to be expected. And the other weird thing that happened,
I don't think yours is that much softer.
it's not like significantly different. It's just like a tiny bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. The other weird thing that happened, and I can't figure out if it's like user error, if it's my dryer, if something weird happened with the yarn, but the swatch now is a little bit more yellow than the actual yarn itself. I don't know if you'll be able to see it on camera, but you can kind of see where the swatch somehow got warmer. Not like now it's like a warm toned color, and the rest of my garment is just a little bit cooler. It's really hard to see, like it's very, very subtle, but I'm just like not sure how that happened, because I literally just got it wet and then put it in the dryer, and this is a natural yarn, so it doesn't have any dye. So I don't know what happened.
Maybe there was something in your washer?
Maybe. Well, I didn't put it in the washer, I just put it in the dryer.
Oh.
Like I literally like got it wet under my sink and then threw it in the dryer to see what would happen, and it somehow changed colors a little bit. So it's a mystery. If anyone has any theories about what happened, I would be super curious, because I really don't.
Could it be dryer burn?
Maybe. I used the delicate dryer cycle. Like I didn't put it on like high heat. I just used delicate. So I don't know. I guess with any yarn, use caution. I'm glad it's just my swatch that I did it and that I didn't experiment with like get the final garment, but I do think it's an interesting experiment. If you get this yarn, maybe try it out, see what happens.
This feels like a good time to talk about my Undine project then. So I have cast on the Claude top by Brenda Collada, and I think this is actually a very similar construction to the Sabai top that I'm wearing, wherein you cast on along the neckline, do increases along the shoulder, separate front and back. Feeling very similar. And so I'm working on one side, but I used a pair of needles to just hold the others. That way I don't have to go back and like take it off scrap yarn again. And I just had extra needles, so I was like, I'll just put it on these extra needles.
If I have the extra needles, I'll always do that.
Yeah, I don't enjoy the extra step of looking for scrap yarn and yeah, all that stuff. So I'm working on, I don't know if this is the front or the back. I think they're the same, but I'll have to check the pattern. So yeah, at this point I've started on, I think what is the front, I can't remember exactly. And then after that, I'll go back and pick up the other side, connect in the round, and I think it'll, again, go pretty fast. I have found that I just really like, in terms of summer knitting, tops that are like kind of that boat neck, high collar. I really like the Sabai top that I'm wearing. I really like the Margot top by Gregoria Fibers. Just those kind of cuts like this where it almost gives like a little bit of a square shape, I feel like, when you wear it, but I think that that's really nice. And I don't know, I have found that every time I do summer knitting, if it's any other construction, I don't tend to wear it a lot. I do have some t-shirts that I like, but like tank tops and stuff, especially where they're lower.
V-neck tank top, and I just never wear them.
I find, especially if like the straps stretch out at all or anything, there's just like fit issues that I don't want to deal with, and I feel like this kind of construction, just at least for me and my body type, I feel like it looks really cute every time. And so I've just decided in terms of summer knitting that that's kind of what I'm gonna stick with. Not to say that I'll ever like never branch out again, but that's what really gravitated me to this pattern was that the construction looked very similar to things that I already like. So yeah, I'll hold it up, but the broken rib pattern texture I just think is really a cute addition, detail to this kind of fit and shape that I already know that I really like. So it's a new pattern to me, but the construction is very similar, and so I feel very comfortable with knitting it. And I'm knitting this in the same yarn as Jessica, but with the DK base. So you're holding yours fingering double to make a DK.
Yes.
And mine is just one strand of DK. And as far as the color goes, I brought out a skein so that way I can make sure I'm saying it right. But the name I think is Hyacinth, so I'll put this up here. It's this really pretty cornflower blue type of color. And I showed this on the podcast last time, and somebody was like, "Oh, you guys are actually using color now,"
Look at us.
which I thought was really funny because I don't think we intentionally planned on that, but we do have some color this spring, and I don't know, the blue I think is really gravitating. The yellow obviously has me. I've been knitting a lot of yellow, but the blue is kind of getting in there too.
My next whip I have barely started, so it doesn't hardly look like anything at all, but it is eventually going to be the Friday Tee by PetiteKnit, and I'm using the classic sock base by Coast to Coast yarn in the colorways Pigeon Milk and then Lights Out for this like black color. And so I'll hold it up so you can see. The t-shirt is going to be like a broken rib little striped tee. So I think it's going to be just like a classic little t-shirt. And this yarn is a little sentimental in that I picked it up whenever I was able to go to Wichita and visit the Coast to Coast store and pick this out in person. So that was fun. It's always kind of nice when like yarn has like a special memory or like a trip attached to it. So I'm really excited about that. And we are affiliates for Coast to Coast. So if you're interested in checking it out, we will have a link in our bio. But we've used this yarn a ton for socks, and I'm excited that I'm finally getting to use it for a garment. Should be fun. So far, I've only got through the short rows. I haven't even started on like the actual yoke of this project.
That's where it gets fun.
Yeah, I kind of needed to power through the boring part of doing like the neckline and doing the short rows. And I think I'm going to pause this for a minute because we do have a trip coming up here soon where we're going to have quite a long plane ride. And I think now that I've got to the yoke and it's going to be just like around and around and around for a while, I think that'll be a really good plane project. So I think I'm going to pause it for a minute, but I am very excited for this t-shirt. I think it's going to be just very classic and cute. And I feel like you can't go wrong with like a PetiteKnit pattern in the summer. Like I'm confident it'll fit and be cute, and should be a fun one.
Going to my last work in progress, I also have a raglan on the needles, and I got through the yoke, and so now I'm onto the body. I'm doing a test knit for Joyan of Tosk Knits, who has a YouTube channel here as well and has been venturing into design. So this is my second time test knitting for her. And this is the poppy blouse / dress. I'm not going to make the dress version, so this will be the blouse. But it's really just a simple raglan that's got these little open kind of eyelet details on the raglan. I don't know if I can show this very well. There we go. And the collar is going to have, I believe, an I-cord. I haven't gotten there in the pattern. So it looks really wide right now, but I think it does have a little bit of cinching. Although in her example that I've seen so far, I think that it is going to have like a little bit of a straight feeling to it. So it is a little bit wide, but it doesn't have like a lot of curve to it. It's still kind of a flat edge. And I'm knitting this in Knitting for Olive Pure Silk. So I think I've knit with every single Knitting for All, like merino, soft silk mohair, cotton, merino. We've got all the Knitting for Olive on this episode.
I think they have like a cashmere. You didn't use that?
Yeah, I haven't used that one yet, but we're checking off boxes on Knitting for Olive right now. And I will say that having both the cotton merino from this project and the pure silk on the needles, I like the cotton merino better. I've used them both in the past, but I've never used them like so closely together, so I don't think I really like was considering it.
It wasn't like a true comparison.
Yeah, and I don't even think I was like intending to compare it, but just having the two side by side, I mean, this one, like, I flew through, and this one I'm kind of, it's not that I don't enjoy working on it, it's just that I don't think I love working with the yarn as much as I don't know, I don't remember ever loving it, but I don't remember disliking it. And I still don't dislike it. I still like it, but I don't like it as much as
You don't love it.
I don't love it. So I think that's the only thing slowing me down. You were talking about how summer fibers can kind of hurt your hands a little bit, and I feel like that does this a little, but it's also a small gauge, so maybe that's part of it. I don't know. The yarn was provided free for testing, so that was really, really nice from Knitting for Olive. And so I'm using the undyed version of Pure Silk, and I really like the color, or neutral, but
The lack of color.
It's a really nice warm tone, but it doesn't read yellow at all, and I really, really like that. And so I think I am going to be using the undyed again. The pattern does have long sleeves, so I will have quite a bit to do still after I finish the body. And then, of course, pick up for some finishings along the neck and anywhere else that it might need it. But I feel like I'm at a pretty good spot right now with it, and I'm just enjoying a little bit of simple knitting on this now that I'm really just to the body and getting through stockinette and enjoying getting through another test knit.
The last whip that I'm working on is one that I've been working on for what feels like forever, so I won't go into too many details, but I am still in my attempt to knit the Jenny jacket. And part of this journey has not necessarily been the pattern, but the yarn, and that I bought the yarn for a different project. That didn't work. I tried swatching for a few other projects. Took me a minute, but I finally landed on the Jenny jacket. Still didn't get the right gauge, but we're just like powering through. My cardigan's going to be a little bit larger than the pattern intends, but I'm okay with that. I don't mind when garments are a little bit oversized, especially if it's a cardigan. But in the last episode, I had cast on the sleeve and then blocked it, and the cuff was really tight. And so this is my take 2 or attempt number 2 at doing a sleeve, and I think I'm at a place where I need to block it now to like confirm if it's going to be okay or not.
I think it definitely looks better than the first one.
It looks better. I feel like my sleeve still looks skinny right here. Like it doesn't look that much bigger than my wrist right now, which I don't know if I love that. But I think when I block it, it's got like enough give that I'll be able to block it into the width that I want it to be. Basically, I cast on 12 additional stitches to the cuff in this iteration than I did in the last one, in the hopes that 12 stitches would give me the size that I wanted it to. I kind of messed up. The reason I went with 12 is because since this is even though it has like the smocking, like the base of the pattern is a 2x2 rib, and so I wanted it to be an increment of 4. And I think if I had been smarter, I would have done 16 stitches in order to give me an even number of the same increment. Like 16 divided by 4 is 4, so that's like an even number, whereas 12 divided by 4 is 3, an odd number. And so I ended up in the increases of this iteration having to do something funky right here in order to get back to the same number of total like columns that I had. Hopefully that makes sense. I was able to finagle it and make it work, but it's not the prettiest. But I don't think many people are going to be looking at that.
I think that's so pretty.
And I need to block this right. I need to stop where I'm at approximately and like block it and make sure that this is gonna look okay. But if this doesn't work, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I finished the like
You
body.
gotta finish it.
At this point, I feel like I'm so committed, but it's just one of those patterns where like I've had to redo every single step at some point. Like I knit the body on the wrong needles, had to redo a good chunk of it. I've had to make the sleeve twice now, praying that the second one works out. Like it's just one of those where like I just can't. I feel like I can't win with this yarn or this pattern. The yarn is Knitting for Olive Merino, held together with the Soft Silk Mohair in the colorway Dark Ochre. And I do really love it. I think it's going to be really pretty. And I love the smocking pattern. Like, I think it's just a really beautiful stitch, and it's fun to knit. And honestly, I think if I didn't enjoy knitting this pattern, I would have given up a long time ago. But I just think it's really cute, and I really like the way that it knits up. And I think the double rib is like interesting enough to knit while still being mindless, and it still fits into that category of things that I really enjoy. But yeah, if this sleeve doesn't block the way I want it to, I don't know what I'm gonna do, because I just have not. I feel like I don't run into this issue that often where I just like have to redo every single step. But hopefully, if anyone else is knitting this, they're learning from my mistakes as they go.
It's really pretty though.
Yeah, it'll be really cute. I'm excited about it. I'm just also like having to accept that this project's taking me way longer than I thought it was going to.
We really don't have any acquisitions this time around, and we've been sewing quite a bit, so we're going to go ahead and jump into that. I know that there's some people that are really mostly here for the knitting, so we always want to say thank you so much for being here if that's you. But I think with the warm weather, sewing has just really gotten our attention and been inspiring recently, so we've got quite a few makes there. And our first one you kind of helped me with quite a bit actually, because in the last podcast Jessica had shared this really cute brown elastic dress that she made, and so I was like, I need that. And so I made 2 versions and you made another one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I made one in white, and that was my first one. I feel like I was led astray personally because Jessica was like, this is so easy. This is the easiest thing ever. And then just like your Jenny jacket, I feel like I had this experience of like everything that can go wrong will go wrong, down to the point where I stabbed myself with a safety pin and was like bleeding on it. But it turned out okay.
It turned out cute. You used like a white poplin that made it very like crisp.
Turns out Tide to Go gets blood out pretty easily, so that was good. But yeah, I love how it turned out. I just thought it was such a funny experience of like, Jessica's like, this is great, and I was like, what's happening?
I think part of it is like, since we didn't use a pattern for this particular dress, I had made the 2 patterns that I kind of merged together to...
You knew what you were doing.
Use it. Yeah, because the bodice is kind of similar to the construction of the Daisy frock by Lydia Naomi Studio. And then the skirt is very similar to the Eleonora skirt by Silver Saga, which you've made the Silver Saga dress, but you hadn't made the Daisy frock by Lydia Naomi. So you didn't necessarily have the context of how the bodice was constructed, whereas I did, and for some reason I thought I would be able to very easily explain like the overall construction techniques, and I probably did a poor job of that.
It's okay, we finished it. You were able to help me achieve it, so the mission was accomplished. But I was like, I think going into it with this like, oh, this is gonna take no time, it's gonna be so easy, and then yeah, it was not. I made a lot of mistakes, but it turned out very cute, and I'm super happy with how it turned out. I had an inspiration photo, and I feel like I was definitely able to achieve something similar, and it felt really good. And I was able to do it much easier the second time, like once I knew what I was doing. Although I think I should have reversed it and done my gingham version first, because I feel like gingham is a lot more forgiving about mistakes. Like it's
such a busy pattern that if you make a mistake, it's going to be harder to see it, whereas your white was so crisp that like you saw everything.
Yeah, it was even one of those fabrics where if you stitch into it and then seam rip it, you can see the little like holes or the little dots from it. And so, yeah, there wasn't a lot of room for error, and unfortunately there was error, but we worked through it and it turned out really cute. And so now I have it in white and gingham, which I'm really happy with.
And I also made a gingham, although yours is like Rachel's is like a smaller, or like a... No, yours is bigger and mine's like a micro gingham. Yours is like a small gingham and mine's a micro gingham. And I think they're both of the fabrics that we used are from Matchy Matchy Sewing Club. So I used literally what they call the micro gingham, and then you used the small.
And they turned out really cute, both of them. So really simple, but I won't oversell it. It was work, but I really love how they turned out. So,
and even though we didn't necessarily use like a pattern or tutorial, Rosary Apparel does have a very similar pattern or like tutorial that she does where she walks you through like a step-by-step video as to how to make a very, very similar dress. So we'll have that linked in the bio in case anyone is interested in making something that has the same vibe, but maybe like a slightly different construction than what we used.
I think hers, she puts a lining in the skirt, which could be really nice. Ours didn't have it just because lining equals more fabric, but that could be a really nice detail for it. So
the second dress that I've made is the Ginkgo Pinafore by Madwick Studio. And this pattern was gifted to us, I believe actually because you reached out to Maddie whenever she was designing the pattern or about to release it and let her know that it was very similar to a Doan dress that had a very similar like base to the dress that she designed, but just has some additional details regarding like the sleeves and the waist ties, but overall the construction looked very, very similar.
And there's a whole community of people out there that I feel like looking for sewing patterns that are not dupes necessarily, but like similar to store-bought things. So I thought, oh, I'll just share that it looks kind of like this because some people find that appealing in a sewing pattern of like, oh, I can see this thing that I saw in stores and then make it myself. And so, yeah, when I saw that connection, I was like, maybe she'll want to know that it kind of looks like this style.
And the dress that it's very similar to is called the Doan Pacifica dress. And it's one that we've both been eyeing forever. It's so cute.
They don't sell it anymore.
No, you can find it used on like Poshmark or like other places, but it's still very expensive. And the Pacifica dress has like a very thin lining. I feel like most Doan dresses have like, or not lining, like a very thin fabric. Like I feel like a lot of their fabrics are just really, really thin, which is great for summer and sometimes that's the vibe, but it's also kind of nice when you have the option to make it yourself that you can pick what fabric you want. And if you want something that's not as see-through, you have the option to do that. So that's kind of what I did. I went with more of like a traditional black linen that's not as see-through. And the Ginkgo Pinafore pattern by Madwick Studio is fully lined. So if that's a consideration for you, that's kind of nice. But she does have a tutorial out there that goes through step by step how she recreates her pattern, but marries some of the modifications that she did to match the vibe of the Doan dress. So I did follow that tutorial and I used that to make mine. I did make my like sleeves just a tiny bit longer than Maddie did in her videos. And she did mention in the video tutorial that she did that if she were to redo it, she would probably make it a little bit longer. So I did that. And then I also made the waist ties on the dress a little bit thicker. And I also made them significantly longer so that way I could wrap them around myself several times. So I'm really happy with those changes. I think it's a really cute dress. And I'm excited to wear it this summer. So the final dress that I've made, because I am like obsessed with dresses right now and I've pretty much only made dresses, is the Wind dress by Soften Studio. And I pretty much tried to copy exactly an inspiration photo that the designer had released of a finished object that she had made where she used this like blue striped fabric to have like the whole body of the dress and all of the stripes were going vertical except for there was like a band at the bottom where the stripes were horizontal. And on that dress, she also modified the ties so that her ties were at the side. And I meant to do that and I completely forgot. So in my version, the ties are still in the front, just like the pattern intended it to be. But I think if I made this dress again, I would try to remember to do that and put the ties at the side. I could unpick it and redo it at this point, but it's still cute in the front. So I don't know that it's that big of a deal. But I thought the dress turned out really cute. I really like it. And I wore it to work the next day after I finished it. Because I think that's kind of the fun thing about sewing. Like when you finish a knitting object, you have to like weave in all the ends and block it and wait for it to dry. And it feels like there's like a whole process between when you finish it versus when you wear it. But the fun thing about sewing is like as soon as you finish the garment, you can just wear it.
Sometimes you give it a nice press and then you're like, I'm ready to go.
Yes.
It's nice.
Yes. So that's what I did. I wore it to work the next day and got a lot of compliments on it. So I think it's a cute summer dress. It's like modest for work, but the fabric was very flowy and still breathable. So I think I'm going to get a lot of use out of it this summer. And I think I could definitely style it and wear it like day to day on the weekends as well too. But my job is starting to go into the office a lot more. And so I'm starting to kind of have to think about how I can maybe make some more things that are office appropriate.
I think that's all that we have to share today, but it definitely felt like a lot. And if you've made it this far, we are so grateful for you for being here. We always love hearing what you're working on, what's inspiring you right now for summer, and just really appreciate you being here today.